Europe, 1944, a B-17 formation thunders through the freezing night. Pilots' breaths mist in the cockpits, tense with anticipation of flak. Then a distant glow appears. Not flares, not tracer fire. Too steady, too deliberate on the dark horizon. Every eye locks on. The glow multiplies. Silent red and orange spheres drift between wings, hovering with impossible precision. No sound, no exhaust. A quiet command. Hold fire, maintain formation. But fear has already fractured their confidence. The unknown is inches from their planes. A sphere streaks across a bomber's nose, stops abruptly, and hovers. The bombardier freezes, unable to look away from the machine. Another orb mirrors a Mustang's maneuvers. The pilot's knuckles whiten on the stick. His senses scream that the impossible is watching. Compasses spin, radios crackle. Technology fails. Only eyes and instincts tell them the truth, something extraordinary is near. Whispers over broken radios confirm it. The lights are everywhere, circling, vanishing, and reappearing. Awe and fear ripple through. Ground command dismisses the reports, but hundreds of men testified to the same experience. Their minds are marked by what cannot be explained. The mystery begins. The glowing watchers, silent and precise, followed those pilots. What were they, and why did they spare them? At first light, the English countryside reveals a vast airfield. P-51s stand in rows, their metal skins dulled by frost. Ground crews move briskly, breath steaming in the cold. They check hydraulic lines, knowing one detail could cost a crew's life. Inside a cramped hut, officers gather around a map. The mission takes shape, a deep penetration escort, a test for men in planes. Pilots file in, shoulders hunched. Their young faces are drawn shadows etched beneath their eyes. Some clutch notebooks. The commanding officer speaks in clipped tones, outlining the route and rendezvous points. He reminds them, protect the bombers. The men listen in silence. A few exchange glances and unspoken acknowledgement that each mission could be their last. The chalkboard reads, escort B-17s to the Ruhr Valley. The word critical leaves little doubt about the task's importance. Outside, frost glistens on the runway as mechanics work. They load 50 caliber ammunition belts with a metallic snap. In the barracks, a man folds a letter from home, tucking it into his breast pocket like armor. Another clutches a rosary. A group photo is hastily arranged. The men line up with forced smiles, capturing a moment that may outlast them all. Helmets and goggles or adjusted gloves pulled tight. Flight jackets creak as the men test their arms. The first engines turn over with a cough, then roar to life. The airfield fills with the mechanical heartbeat of the day's ordeal. Pilots climb into cramped cockpits. Harnesses are fastened, switches checked, instruments scanned. Their world is now confined. Close up, a pilot's hands tremble briefly on the stick, a nervous shake that disappears as training takes over. Over the radio, the squadron leader calls the tower. Red squadron ready for takeoff. His voice is steady. Wheels leave the runway. The aircraft rise into a pale sky streaked with contrails. The ground vanishes beneath clouds. At altitude, the formation spreads. Each pilot trusts the man beside him. Their survival depends on discipline as much as skill. Sunlight flashes across canopies, a moment of deceptive peace. But the distant horizon reminds them of their purpose. Ahead, the bomber stream emerges, dozens of B-17s, their bellies heavy with bombs. To the fighters, they are a fragile burden. The P-51s slide into escort positions, a shield of speed around the lumbering giants. A fragile pact of survival. The radio crackles with transmissions, altitude checks fuel status. The language is efficient, honed by repetition. The lead pilot checks his watch. Every minute counts. A delay could mean disaster. Bombers lost, the mission failed. A navigator in the lead bomber traces lines across a map. His pencil taps at the Rhine River, calculating distance. Below, the countryside of occupied Europe drifts past. Each man knows enemy eyes watch from below, waiting. Flak erupts in the distance, sudden black bursts of smoke against the sky. The squadron braces. The gauntlet has begun. The first shockwaves rock the formation. Pilots grit their teeth as shrapnel clangs against fuselages. Discipline holds. A pilot adjusts his oxygen mask. The hiss of his breathing is amplified, tethering him to the machine and to survival. Another glances at a photograph taped to his dashboard. He taps the image, once a silent promise to his family. The squadron leader's voice cuts through the static. Steady, eyes forward. His calm steadies the others. The sky grows crowded. Contrails twist, flak bursts multiply. Distant specks hint at enemy fighters soon to appear. Still, the formation holds. Hours of training, months of combat all converge in this moment. Order against chaos. The roar of engines fills every gap in overwhelming, endless sound. It drowns out thought and fear, yet unease lingers. For now, everything proceeds as planned. Bombers hold altitude, fighters hold their arcs. Precision guides the mission. Yet within the discipline lies tension. Every man knows the script of war, but whispers of things that don't fit linger. As the squadron pushes deeper, an unspoken question hangs. What if the greatest danger waiting for them is not what they expect? The squadron crosses into hostile airspace. The patchwork of Europe fades, roads and rivers barely visible. No German fighters appear. Minutes pass in silence. Discipline holds the formation tight, but a creeping unease builds. Combat air patrols should have engaged. Through his canopy, McAllister spots a faint starlight glimmer rising against the wind. It's too steady, too deliberate. Sergeant Green, a B-17 gunner, reports light at 11 o'clock, holding steady. His voice is calm but laced with tension. Officers at first think it's tracer fire, but the glow neither arcs downward nor fades. On what did my phase? It moves with a steady, guided pace. More lights appear. Orange, red, and white spheres glide effortlessly, arranging themselves near the escort fighters. Pilots tense fingers brushing triggers. Orders remain strict, no firing unless attacked. Their discipline is tested. One sphere drifts closer to a P-51. The pilot watches in disbelief, a perfect sphere glowing with internal fire. Instruments show nothing. No turbulence, no heat. The pilot's breathing is ragged in his mask as the Mustang holds formation. In the bomber stream, crewmen watch nervously as lights weave between aircraft with precision. Some mutter prayers. The squadron leader radios maintain discipline. Repeat whole formation. His strained voice carries a strain he cannot hide. A gunner swears a light passed directly through a contrail without disturbance. He remains silent, unable to process what he saw. Radar operators scan their scopes frantically, but screens remain blank. The phenomena exist outside their instruments. The silence on the radio grows oppressive. Where once there was chatter, now only the drone of engines remains. The lights begin to maneuver. They dart upward at impossible angles, then stop dead, hovering as if observing. In one cockpit, a pilot whispers into his mask, "They're not attacking, just watching." The thought echoes through the formation. The squadron braces for contact, but no attack comes. The orbs simply keep pace, weaving like silent escorts. Minutes stretch into eternity. Sweat runs down temples. Every second feels taut, like a wire ready to snap. A light streaks across a bomber's nose, faster than any jet. It halts instantly, defying all logic of inertia. Panic ripples through the formation. Hands tighten on controls. No shots are fired. The unknown only shadows them. Some recall lectures on St. Elmo's fire. But these are not static glows. They move with intent and intelligence. After missions, the term Foo Fighters emerges, a name from comic strips, a joke to tame the terror of the unknown. Bomber crews privately admit it felt like being stalked by something intelligent, something studying them in the night. Combat taught them to fear flak and Messerschmitts, but this silent, impossible light gnaws deeper at their composure. A report notes objects observed at 20,000 feet. No radar contact, maneuverability beyond known aircraft, no offensive action. Some claim the lights mirrored their evasive maneuvers, mocking their efforts. A few felt a physical pressure in their chest. Command dismisses the claims, fatigue, combat stress, but the reports keep coming from squadrons across Europe. Pilots whisper that the lights are neither enemy nor natural. Some nervously joke about visitors, but few laugh. Stories circulate in the mess hall, lights diving into the sea without splash, vanishing into clouds without reemergence. The official stance is silence, but the men know what they saw. The strangeness becomes a new layer of uncertainty. Rumors spread that German scientists are behind it, but no wreckage is ever found, no evidence is ever captured. Others speculate about plasma or optical illusions, but the sheer consistency of the reports undermines these explanations. A captain writes in his log, "We flew beside them for 15 minutes. I would rather face flak than endure that again." Even when the skies clear and the objects vanish, the memory lingers. Men stare into the night, waiting for their return. The greatest unease remains. The official enemy lies ahead, but something far stranger has already marked their presence. The night over the Ruhr Valley grows darker. The bomber stream moves like a wall of steel, but the sky is eerily still. Without warning, an orange sphere materializes ahead of the lead Mustang. It simply appears where no object should be. The pilot steadies his hands. Instinct screams to evade, but his training anchors him. His instruments show nothing. Two more lights bloom from the darkness, arranging themselves into a triangular formation beside the bomber group. Tension ripples across the squadron. Gunners ready turrets. Orders are repeated sharply: hold fire unless under attack. A gunner mutters, feels like they're boxing us in. No one corrects him. The description is too accurate. The orbs weave through contrails, defying gravity. They accelerate in bursts, halt instantly, all without sound. In one cockpit, sweat beads beneath a mask. The pilot realizes the object is not a reflection. It casts its own glow on his wing. For 5 minutes, the formation is shadowed silently. The men confront an enemy that will not act, only follow. A Mustang peels away, testing their reaction. 3 spheres mirror his maneuver precisely. The pilot feels hunted. Inside a B-17, the navigator writes coordinates with a shaking hand, forcing order into the surrounding chaos. A flash blinds the crew for a heartbeat. An orb shoots across a bomber's nose, then stops dead above the formation. Shouts fill the intercom. Fear bursts through discipline. The squadron leader's voice cuts in, "Do not break." But the words sound hollow. Every man knows he is facing something beyond command or training. One gunner, unable to contain himself, fires a burst. The tracers vanish. The orb does not react, indifferent to human effort. The reprimand from command is sharp, but the aura of control has already shattered across the formation. A bombardier swears his compass spins wildly as a light drifts past. The report is logged, but later dismissed as malfunction. The orbs move closer, threading between wings. One hovers between 2 bombers for nearly a full minute, a steady escort. Men stare transfixed, expecting destruction. But the orb glides away, leaving only pounding hearts in its wake. Radar screens remain blank. To the instruments, the sky is empty. To the men, it is alive with watchers. A young pilot whispers, "They know we're here." It is not protocol, but no one contradicts him. Then, as suddenly as they appeared, the lights vanish, snuffed out in perfect unison. Relief is fleeting. 10 seconds later, they reappear at the rear of the formation, brighter than before. The timing feels deliberate. Men begin to break routine. A navigator drops his pencil. A gunner keeps his sights fixed on empty sky. Panic is contagious. Even those who see nothing feel the weight of dread from those who do. Reports from other squadrons confirm similar encounters. Foo Fighters are spreading across theaters of war. In the Pacific, B-29 crews over Tokyo log balls of fire, pacing their bombers bright enough to be seen for miles. Back over Europe, a Mustang pilot feels heat on his canopy, though no light touches him. The sensation vanishes instantly. Another pilot swears he heard a low hum. Recordings later reveal only silence. The contradictions deepen their fear. The Foo Fighters never strike. Their presence bleeds discipline from the crews more effectively than enemy bullets. Gunners freeze at their stations. Officers struggle to maintain calm, repeating hold formation like a mantra. In the barracks, men whisper about what they saw. Some drink heavily, but no one speaks of it in official reports. Command insists on rational explanations, but the consistency of reports from separate squadrons undermines those dismissals. By December 1944, sightings are constant. Foo Fighters become an unspoken addition to the enemy list. A captain writes in his log, "I fear them more than flak. Flak obeys rules, this does not." Exhaustion worsens the fear. The lights exploit that fragility, appearing when nerves are thinnest and minds are weak. Some men adopt rituals seeking protection from what cannot be fought. Others withdraw into a private dread. One night, a squadron reports being herded by the lights. They emerge unharmed but shaken to their core. Intelligence officers log the event as unsubstantiated. Bitterness settles in what they fear most isn't acknowledged. The term Foo Fighters becomes official, slang, a name to cover what no one can understand or explain. Yet every man knows it is no joke when the sky glows red and white. The laughter dies quickly. Missions continue, but crews will not remember the targets. They will remember the lights. The lights become a constant reminder that in the chaos of war, there are forces beyond human comprehension. Not enemy, not ally, just a presence that watches without intent, instilling a new bone-deep fear. The mystery of the glowing watchers remains a quiet question that echoes through history. What followed those men? December 1944. Over the Ruhr Valley, the bomber stream pushes through the night, engines thundering. The skies are disturbingly calm. Calm breaks without warning. Multiple glowing spheres flare into existence. Orange, red, and white. Every man freezes at his post. The crews prepare for fighters, but no silhouettes dive. The orbs drift downward, weaving between contrails with unnerving precision. Radar operators call out, but their scopes are empty. No signatures, just blank screens. The contradiction deepens the dread. The first orb positions itself in front of a Mustang. The pilot tightens his grip, eyes locked on the glowing intruder. A B-17 gunner whispers, "It's right here, close enough to touch." His voice trembles, discipline barely holding back his panic. More lights descend, arranging themselves into a shifting arc around the bomber stream. The formation is no longer alone. Flak erupts from the ground, shaking the bombers. Yet the orbs pass through the explosions untouched, glowing brighter. The contrast is unbearable, death below and above something untouchable yet utterly present. In one bomber, the bombardier freezes. The orb outside the nose seems to pulse as if breathing. His hand hovers over the release. A navigator reports his compass spinning. Charts scatter as turbulence rattles the plane, though no storm is visible outside. The squadron leader repeats, "Hold formation. Maintain discipline." His tone is sharp, but a crack of fear lies beneath it. One orb darts across a bomber's nose, at impossible speed, then halts inches from impact. The crew screams over intercom. Another Mustang banks to break away. 3 orbs instantly shadow him, boxing him in like predators circling prey. His ragged, panicked breathing fills the radio. Then the lights vanish, leaving him shaking in silence. A gunner fires a burst. The tracers streak through the night, passing straight through an orb without effect. The sphere doesn't even flicker. The reprimand is harsh but futile. The illusion of control is broken. Fear has spread faster than orders. Instruments fail. Altimeters freeze, radios cut out, gauges drop to 0 before snapping back. Each failure coincides with an orb. In one bomber, a man faints. His comrades leave him slumped, too transfixed by the lights to move. The orbs shift, forming a loose circle. The men feel caged, driven forward by something unseen pressing from every side. 15 minutes stretch into eternity. Only the roar of engines remains, yet it feels distant, smothered by a new silence. As if on command, the orbs pulse brighter. Crews describe the glow as alive, like the beat of a giant heart in the sky. Panic spreads. Men clutch rosaries or laugh hysterically. The sound is brittle and broken. Bombs finally fall, but few remember the target. All memory is consumed by the lights hovering above them. The orbs descend closer. One hovers so near its glow reflects off the glass, burning into the crewman's eyes. Collision, someone shouts, bracing. But the orb halts, then dissolves like mist, leaving only empty sky. The relief is worse than the fear. The men know the lights will return. Every heartbeat is an eternity of waiting. They do return, reappearing behind the squadron in a burst of brilliance, brighter than before, mocking their escape. Radios crackle, distorted into gibberish. Transmission breaks down into static. Ground command receives only fragments. Crews describe pressure in their ears, a vibration in their bones. The orbs throb brighter, a frequency no human can bear. A pilot later recalls the air itself was alive. "I wanted to tear my headset off, but my hands would not move." The orbs surge upward, then dive straight through the stream, weaving between aircraft with impossible precision. Another gunner fires blindly. Again, nothing. The lights remain indifferent, untouchable. This is worse than hostility. The orbs gather again, forming a perfect ring. Witnesses later describe it as a cage of fire in the sky. Then, without warning, the lights begin to fade one by one, dissolving until only stars remain. Silence reclaims the night. Crews gasp for breath. They feel as if they have woken from a nightmare, though they know it was real. The mission concludes mechanically. No one recalls the target, the flak, or the fighters. They remember only the cage of lights. Debriefings collapse. Reports contradict. Intelligence dismisses it as stress. But in the barracks, the men whisper the same truth. They had been surrounded and spared not by chance, but by something beyond war, a mystery that still hangs in the sky. The squadron crosses the channel in silence. Engines drone, but inside the cockpits, men are hollowed by what they have witnessed. The landing strip glows under floodlights. Mechanics rush forward as wheels touch down. Crews climb out slowly, legs unsteady. Ground personnel expect chatter. Instead, they are met with blank stares, trembling hands, and men who cannot explain their fear. Mechanics inspect the aircraft. Flak damage is present, but no trace of the glowing spheres remains. Nothing tangible justifies the reports. A pilot removes his mask and vomits on the tarmac shaking. His comrades pretend not to notice each man retreating into silence. Inside the debriefing hut, officers demand order. They press for details on targets struck and losses sustained. Pilots shuffle in. They sit rigid, eyes fixed on nothing. The atmosphere is thick, oppressive, a palpable dread in the room. The first to speak is a gunner. His voice cracks. They were there again. Foo Fighters. Pens freeze mid-stroke. The squadron leader attempts military precision, but his tone falters. Words stumble as memory overrides his discipline. A bombardier interrupts, blurting that the lights boxed us in like cattle. Uneasy whispers erupt before officers silence them. Intelligence staff dismiss the accounts. Stress, fatigue, combat strain. They scribble these terms into official logs. The official record is sterile, unidentified aerial lights observed. No damage, no losses. The terror is compressed into a single line. After the debrief, men gather in the mess hall. Coffee cools untouched. The only words spoken are whispers about the lights. Some laugh nervously, insisting they were flares or plasma. The laughter is brittle hollow, a mask for their dread. Others sit in silence haunted. A navigator stares at his hands, replaying the moment his compass spun wildly. Rituals multiply. Rosaries dangle. Letters are refolded. Superstition becomes a part of their standard flight gear. Command calls for calm, stating no enemy weapon of such description exists. But the men are not reassured. They know what they saw. Reports from other squadrons pour in, echoing the same descriptions. The phenomenon is undeniable, yet officially denied. German prisoners interrogated about secret weapons reveal nothing. Their genuine bafflement deepens the mystery. Scientific officers propose explanations: ball lightning, static discharges. Theories collapse, none explain the intelligence. Foo Fighters become slang uttered half in jest, half in fear. An attempt to control the uncontrollable with humor. But beneath the joke lies truth. The men stop trusting the night sky, dreading the return of the watchers on every mission. A captain writes in his diary, "I prefer flak. Flak obeys rules, these obey nothing," he hides the entry. In barracks, men wake screaming from nightmares of glowing cages, of suffocating silence, of lights that stared without eyes. Some refuse to speak, swallowing the memory as if silence could erase it. Others recount the details, needing to be believed. Command continues to classify the reports as unsubstantiated. For the official record, Foo Fighters are erased from the war. But among the crews, memory is indelible. No metal can scrub the image of the spheres pacing their wings in silence. Years later, survivors still tremble. Decorated veterans, their voices shake as they recall glowing lights over Germany. The Foo Fighters left no wreckage, no explanation, only the stunned silence of those who endured them. For the men who flew that winter, their survival was overshadowed by a lingering disbelief that their war had revealed something stranger than the enemy itself. The war has ended, but for those who flew, the battle is not over. The memory of the lights is heavier than flak. Official reports are filed away. But between the lines lies a void where the Foo Fighters should have been acknowledged. In barracks now empty, veterans exchange uneasy glances. No one wants to be the first to speak of what they saw. A pilot finally breaks the silence. They were there again. The others nod, relieved and terrified. They share the vision. At home, fathers speak of flak and comrades. But when asked about the night skies, they fall silent. Some veterans write journals. The pages describe impossible maneuvers in spinning instruments hidden from view. One journal reads, "They made no sound, yet their presence was deafening. I have never felt so watched." Scientists propose natural explanations. The veterans scoff quietly. They know what they saw. Interrogated German officers deny everything. They had no spheres of fire pacing Allied bombers. Their denials sound genuine. Historians uncover declassified files. Reports are terse, objects observed. Purpose undetermined. Cold words that bury the terror. A veteran breaks down, "I'd rather face flak than those lights." At least flak obeyed rules. His hands still shake. Another recalls, "They were never ours, never German. They were something else. They knew we were there." At reunions, old comrades finally speak. Over whiskey, they recount the same details, silence louder than bombs. Some admit they prayed more when Foo Fighters appeared than under heavy attack. Nightmares persist. Veterans wake drenched in sweat, convinced they're still caged in light above Europe. Wives recall their husbands staring out windows at the night sky, silent hollow. The war never left them. Children remember fathers who refused to speak of the lights but whispered in sleep. They're here. In the 1950s, researchers find patterns identical descriptions across Europe and the Pacific. Explanations fail. Natural phenomena can't explain the precision. Secret weapons leave no wreckage. Illusions don't terrify. Files begin to cross-reference other programs. Some suggest the Foo Fighters are part of something beyond the war, but the files stop abruptly, pages redacted. Mystery remains the only constant. Veterans find no comfort in speculation. For them, the experience was personal, etched into their eyes. A gunner recalls the glow reflecting in his canopy. I could see my own terror in the glass. It haunted him. Survivors of B-29 missions echo the same red orbs over Tokyo, immune to bullets. The watchers remained. Even after peace, the Foo Fighters haunt the skies. Veterans avoid looking at stars drawing curtains at night. Others scan the horizons, searching for a closure that never comes, for lights that never return. Historians find voices trembling. I know what I saw, they insist, and it was not ours, not theirs. The Foo Fighters never shot down a plane. They left uncertainty that eroded faith in the known. The war ends in parades and medals, but for those who remember the lights, victory feels incomplete. The story closes as it began, a presence, unexplained, a mystery unsolved, and a haunting reminder.